everybody, it's me, Nap. I just wanted to let you know that if you're only listening to the You Mind podcast, then you're only getting half the story. Listen to Creeping Wave Radio, our sister podcast, to hear what happens when the mics go off. Links to both podcasts are in the description below.
What are you doing? And pray tell, what is this?
A camera for my podcast that I...
Don't be scared now, but it looks like you just wandered straight into U-Mind country. That's U-Mind, short for unaffiliated mind games, and you ain't never gonna be the same again. Brace yourself. It's time for a red-hot truth injection. Oh yeah! That's right, bitch. We're rounding up the sheeple and shaking them awake. U-Mind, too damn bad. We're gonna set fire to the wool over your eyes. Feel the burn, baby. Hot damn. We're toppling the lies of the lamestream media one by one. Woo-wee. Watch them bad boys fall. Hey, Universe A. This is Universe B calling, and we're gonna tear you a new one. You mind?
Okay, hey everybody. Welcome to the You Mind podcast. I am here today with our special guest, Waldo Oswaldo.
Hey everybody.
Hey, so Waldo, you are a professional dancing puppet man.
That is correct.
Well, excellent. So, describe what one does in the role of a dancing puppet man.
That's a difficult question to answer. It sort of varies show to show depending on the situation, but I have a set of scripted gags that I like to perform with the audience, and they react to those in their various ways. Some of which are harmful to me, some of which are very positive. And depending on which way the show goes, we usually have either a pretty good time or it's pretty awful.
Oh.
So you're really taking a risk every time you get up on stage.
I suppose every performer is.
Now, you are, of course, multi-talented, as anybody who's heard your hit song off your hit single, Yeah, 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 can attest to.
That was a contractually obligated situation to create the illusion that I was an artist with some kind of platform. Back when I started doing this back in 2016, I have distanced myself from this material, but it does indeed exist.
Oh, yes. It felt like it was such a positive affirmation, but I guess that was all just an illusion perpetrated at the time.
It felt right at the time, I could say that.
Now, you are in fact a puppet, and some puppets need strings to operate. You seemingly don't. Is that just a trick of the light, or what?
It is sort of a Pinocchio situation. It came when I rescued my father from the belly of the whale in my own way, and sort of came into myself and became a real boy.
Oh, that's
man.
Excellent. Very nice.
Boy.
Well, congratulations for that. I'm sure your father's very appreciative.
Would you say?
I'd like to think so.
Is he an inspiration for you?
Sure. I'm pretty inspired by. It's tough to pin down. I don't know how to respond to that. I don't know how to respond to questions about my father in a public forum.
Yes, well, I'm sorry if I've touched on a sensitive topic, but, well, as a puppet, who controls you?
Are we getting philosophical here, or is that a...
Well, you are a puppet. Is there anybody who controls you? You had said before that you were under a contractual obligation. Sometimes the audience directs your show.
Are you under the direct control of any kind of a puppeteer, or is it more social influence?
That is difficult to answer as well, and there may be an answer to that I don't understand, because I certainly do not feel in control. So if somebody is in control, it is not me.
Now, there's a variety of different puppets out there. There's paper bag puppets, sock puppets, marionettes, K-pop bands, congressmen. Are there any existing prejudices that exist between these groups in the puppet world? And
The lines are blurred between these groups more than you might imagine.
Would you care to elaborate?
No.
Oh, okay. Well, I guess maybe we'll get just a touch philosophical here.
Oh boy.
Yeah. What's at your core? And by that I mean, what are you constructed from?
This is a half styrofoam dome you can purchase at Michael's. This is an upside down styrofoam visor. It's all available at Michael's. So I suppose you could say that Michael's department store is at my core. This is a tuft of human hair.
Oh, wow.
Up here.
Where did you get that from?
That is from the man in my head who we're gonna
ignore
that.
We don't need to talk about him. No.
And do you remember anything prior to your assembly?
I could redirect that question right back at you.
Yeah, well, that's true. I don't think much of us do.
Now, how can our listeners at home recognize if they might themselves be puppets?
That is not an easy distinction to make, and I do not feel comfortable drawing those lines in the sand. That's up to the individual.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to get too political on this program. I have to keep my audience united, what little of them is out there.
No, I totally understand that.
You say what little of them is out there. Would you say you're not getting the response that you're wanting?
It's a tough industry. That's just showbiz.
So, speaking of showbiz, when did you first realize your calling as an entertainer?
That dates back as far as I can remember. If I had a choice in the matter about my career path, I would have gone a completely different route. This is a dismal nightmare, and to anybody who's thinking about getting involved in entertainment, I would consider engineering or carpentering or something more
practical?
Yes, and useful.
So you're saying it wasn't really a choice. You were essentially puppeteered.
I think everyone was.
Yeah. So everybody is kind of just forced into a role and then made to play it. Just you, perhaps, in a more visible way.
Now, how did your act come about?
The first performance I ever did was at an open mic at the Aztec Brewery in Vista, and that was received one way or another, and that was a more typical song and dance routine that you might have seen from earlier entertainers. But I've exhausted that bag of tricks, and I've gone through the whole gambit. I did the songs, I did the dancing, I did the comedy, I did the music. If I said that already, I went through the whole gambit, and I just don't know what these people want from me anymore. So I've tried to keep the act fresh, and I don't know if I've succeeded in that endeavor.
Now, Aztec Brewery is where I first saw you, and I really enjoyed myself. I really thought you lit up the stage there.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
I don't know if everybody who was at that particular performance would agree, but some people certainly do. So thank you.
Well, I sort of go for the more esoteric, make-you-think kind of acts, and yours is definitely one of those.
Is it?
Well, it made me think, so, you know.
Well, that's interesting.
Yes. So, some people, they don't want to think, and I think maybe those people wouldn't respond to your act that well.
Might be a little too frightening for them to venture into those kind of territories. You know what I mean?
Perhaps. It's frightening for me.
Yes. Yeah, you don't seem like you're afraid up there. You seem very confident, but is that just...
That's amazing to me.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I thought you were really high energy up there doing your bit, doing your dancing, doing your jokes. It was great.
We go 100% in every show. We have to give our all in this business, or they cast you out into the streets immediately. I've seen this firsthand.
Yeah, it's absolutely true.
Now, you had talked about the response is very mixed for your shows. Do you have any stories, good or bad, about how things?
Um, you'll get the occasional physical attack,
Oh,
which is
geez.
usually handled pretty well by the rest of the crowd. But whenever anybody's able to land a physical blow, it adds a good amount of excitement. And while it's not the most enjoyable experience for me, I've noticed that when that does take place, even though the individuals who are involved in the assault are typically not enjoying it, it does improve the enjoyment of the rest of the crowd. It gives it that action factor. So while I'm not asking my audience to attack me, I won't deny that when they do, it tends to help me out.
Oh, wow. So there's a very physical aspect to your shows some of the time.
It's got a little bit of old time show tunes, and it's got a little bit of WWE as well. Yes.
Very nice.
So, how do you defend yourself when that happens, or do you just?
I am 100% reliant on the rest of the crowd to save me in the event of a physical assault, because I don't in the experiences where this has happened to me, I would stand no chance defending myself because my assailants are usually quite large in physical stature compared to me.
Oh.
So you've noticed that large men tend to come after you more. Is that maybe a dominance issue that they're dealing with? They don't like to see you up on stage? I don't know.
In some instances, but I've had people of all shapes and sizes come after me. It's just, it wouldn't look very good on my part to fight the crowd. I like to try to maintain an air of professionalism and just continue the show.
Right. Oh, well,
Well, it is disappointing to hear that that's how some people respond to it. I think that maybe some people just can't take good old-fashioned entertainment.
It is exciting. You have to hand it to them.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I guess they just amp it up a notch. Do you think maybe liquor's involved in that choice?
Absolutely. 100% of the time. I have never once been assaulted by a sober individual.
Wow. Okay. Well, see, that starts to make sense, I guess.
Now, we're talking about this, and I have to ask, do you resent performing for humans sometimes?
Sometimes.
Yeah.
Not all of the time. There has to be something that keeps me doing it, I suppose.
Mm-hmm.
But it really does depend. And I think that anyone you ask who's been in this business long enough would probably answer that question similarly.
Yeah, I would think so.
Yeah, I think you hear that a lot in interviews, where entertainers will hit a point where they kind of see the audience as their best friend and their worst enemy.
That pretty much just hits the nail on the head. They're your bread and butter. So,
well, have you ever performed for other puppets, and why or why not?
There's not too much of a market for that kind of activity. I would love to if that was if such an event were to arise. I pretty much just perform anywhere that I can get booked, the events that are appropriate come and go with time.
So I know you do emceeing. You do bar mitzvahs, weddings. Have you ever officiated a wedding?
No, and well, I'm sure the money is good for that. It would make me very, very nervous. So any bride and groom who wanted me to do such a service would have to be prepared for the anxiety attack that would ensue from such a situation.
Oh.
Yeah, I know there's starting to be a market out there for that sort of thing. Like Gallagher. He officiates weddings now.
That's absurd.
Yeah, it sounds like quite the wedding to be at. But if that's how you want to roll, then it's your special day, I guess. So
has Gallagher ever been married?
Yeah, I think he is married. I think that there was an interview a while ago where he actually talked about that.
Aren't there two Gallaghers?
There are. There's Gallagher 1 and Gallagher 2, who I think was his brother. So
which one's the one that went down into the gutter?
Yeah. I think that's Gallagher 2 and Gallagher 1 sustained.
And he's the one who's still gigging around now and doing weddings?
Mm-hmm. He does weddings. He writes songs. He has a YouTube channel. He's still alive and kicking. So,
Well, good for him. Anyone who can sustain a business on that model is a miracle worker.
Yeah, you wouldn't think there's that much call for somebody to continually smash watermelons, but some people are into it, so hey.
but is that something that you would ever do on stage, like prop kind of comedy like that?
Or more gags, or are you really just about...
Just
Gags are my business. I'm
Yeah.
trying to locate some kind of a larger trunk to carry all of these various items in. I don't want to become too notorious as a prop comic because
yeah.
there's not. That's the words just make your skin crawl.
You don't want to go the
So-
Carrot Top route.
No,
Though he is working in Vegas right now, from what I hear.
that is the last place that I want to end up, but it's most likely where I will.
Well,
Though I promise to come see you if you do headline a Vegas show.
so
I-
you have my word. So, but so we're talking about kind of
I did
the
not mean to insult the people of Las Vegas, Nevada. There's a lot of bad money there that could come after me, so I'm
No,
going to
that's
keep
true.
my hat low on that.
Very, very true. Yeah, we don't want anybody.
Do you ever edit portions of the podcast out?
I can, absolutely. Do you want me to edit that part out?
We might as well not do that. We might as well keep it raw for the raw.
Just real, you know.
But if you hear anything from anybody, you might want to take that part out. We're gonna Let's move on. I don't want to talk about Las Vegas anymore.
No, we're not talking about Las Vegas.
Though I do want to continue talking about the entertainment industry and Hollywood, since it seems like something that...
Oh boy.
Yeah. What is your opinion on Hollywood? Let's start off with that.
What is your opinion of Hollywood?
I think that it started out with good intentions of just bringing to life stories and
kind of creating entertainment for people, and it became too structured to the point where they're not willing to take risks.
Things have become just recycled variations on one theme or another.
Even the actresses that we see, they all sort of look similar. Natalie Portman looks just like Keira Knightley, looks just like Winona Ryder, and they're not willing to bank on anything that's not going to be predictably successful or hasn't been in the past.
Well, I couldn't have put it too much better myself. I have a love-hate relationship with Hollywood, and I that's about as simply put as it can be. I think most people have a similar feel of it.
Mm-hmm.
I do think that there are some people who maybe just enjoy the chaos of it. Would you be one of those people, or not really? Maybe sometimes.
It's hard to pin down. There seems to be I cannot avoid the thing I hate the most.
Mm-hmm. Because you're an entertainer, and that's kind of, there's only so many avenues for you, right? So,
do you think that your act is maybe helping to change some of that rigidity that we see in Hollywood and the entertainment industry at large?
Absolutely not, but it has helped me to locate other like-minded individuals and keep them as a closer part of my life.
That's excellent. So that's very good. So you say you meet a lot of people who are responsive to what you're doing.
I make friends doing this. I could say that.
Well, that's something. I mean, I think that's why people go into entertainment in the first place, is to sort of gain some level of recognition for who they are or what they do. We'll be right back with more Waldo Oswaldo fun after a word from our sponsor. Stay tuned.
This April the 27th, prepare yourself for an experience unlike anything you've ever dared experience before. Ready yourself for the comedic force that is Waldo Oswaldo, the professional dancing puppet man, live on stage at the Just Trying to Make Friends event in San Diego, California. Live people, listening to live music, and of course, Waldo Oswaldo. This is going to be the event of the century, and you can be there for it. For venue location and more info as it becomes available, check out Waldo Oswaldo's official Instagram at Waldo_Oswaldo. If you're not there, then every puppy in the world will explode.
Come here, Rover. What's wrong, boy? Oh, no!
Don't let this happen. Think of the puppies. Take a stand and attend the Just Trying to Make Friends event, April 27th, 2019, San Diego, California. Be there.
And now, back to more news they don't want you to hear on the You Mind podcast. Stay woke, everyone.
Would you say you're the kind of person who thrives on attention or sort of shies away from it?
That is the hardest question I could possibly have to answer. I think that my instincts tell me that I do not like attention, but my actions tell me that I do.
So you're saying it's like something within you just takes over and you kind of go there and then you have to deal with the repercussions when you get back.
Yes, that's the god-awful part.
Yeah, no, it's...
Oh yeah, trust me, that's what I'm dealing with too.
Here's a question.
That's a puppet's life for you, though.
It is a puppet's life. It is indeed.
So speaking again on the subject of puppets, do you find their portrayal in the media sometimes offensive? We touched on Pinocchio, maybe the Muppets, or...
I haven't been too offended by anything puppet related lately, except for the recent disaster that recently lost $20 million for Warner Brothers. What was the name of that horrible film? It was the advertising campaign for this movie was shoved down our throats for a very long time. It was what was that movie?
I don't know.
The Happy Time Murders.
Right. Yeah.
I was offended by this film and its existence. It could have been I'm not going to say too much more about it. I think everybody is as outraged as I am, and the negative $20 million at the box office speaks for that.
Yeah.
Well, are you at all worried that by talking about this film, you might spike people's curiosity and get them to watch it, and then they'll be exposed to this hatred and vitriol?
I'm horrified by everything that I say in a public forum. I can't imagine what the things I've said on this podcast are going to come back and do to me in the future.
Oh, you and me both. Well, not because of you, but after every podcast, I sort of sit there and go like, yeah, why did I say that?
Then I have the ability to edit it out. So, but I wish I had that in real life, but not yet, though.
As things become more digital, maybe that'll be a possibility.
We will live forever on the internet, so there is that to look forward to or to fear, depending on your perspective, I suppose.
True. Now, do you ever put on maybe like an impromptu show or something like that?
It's been on my to-do list for a while. I would need more individuals to participate in such an event that. But the short answer to that is no. I have not done anything of that nature yet.
Okay.
Well, I'd love to see that, and you have my number, so...
That I do.
You do? Yes. Not a lot of people
do. I got it
do.
before coming on the podcast. That's how we stayed in touch to organize the event. That's a little behind the scenes for you there, folks.
It's a little behind the scenes, guys.
You got to talk. We didn't just meet up on Skype by accident here.
No, that would be interesting, though. It's
Have you ever thought about doing like those chat roulettes or omegles where you just randomly encounter people and see how they would respond to your...
That's not a bad idea.
Yeah. Might be kind of an interesting thing.
So what changes would you like to see in the human puppet dynamic?
Well, I would like to get my name on the bills for the shows I'm booked on. That would be a starter. it's typically rough when the audience arrives at a show I have been booked on and I haven't been advertised, because then they want Vampire Weekend to come out on stage, but they don't realize there's another opening act coming out first. So when their favorite band does not come out on stage and instead it is me, that typically generates some of the worst reactions I've had.
Well, that hardly seems fair. Why would they do that, do you think?
I think a lot of it has to do with the way that I've been booked in the past. I think that because I present myself as an MC or a host, it's often ignored. I don't really know. It's a case by case basis as well. There are some posters have put my name on it, but when I get there, it's never clear how long I'm supposed to perform for or when exactly my set is. And sometimes the bands will be setting up while I perform, and we're never really sure exactly when it's supposed to start or end. But that's part of the show I've created for myself. It's all a chaotic nightmare, and that's what I've come to expect from the whole situation. And hopefully my audience does as well.
Are there any lessons that humanity could learn from the experiences of a puppet like yourself, dealing with the abuse and the accolades, and just what wisdom do you have to offer?
There may be a lesson to be learned from all of this, but if there is, it's not my place to identify it.
That's very profound. So
Yes.
there's a bit of a philosopher in you, I think.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Who are some people or puppets that you've met who've been interesting to you? I know you talked about Vampire Weekend. Any stories to share about them?
I've never met Vampire Weekend before. I was using them as an example as one of these popular music groups that the lack of their presence can make a crowd into a group of savage murderers in the blink of an eye.
Well, you haven't been murdered yet, I suppose.
But interesting stories as far as other puppets I've come across or other interesting acts. One of my favorite acts I've ever seen perform were called Macula Dog. That's like Dracula but with an M at the beginning. Macula Dog, 2 words. And these folks had these crazy jumpsuits on, and they would play synthesizers, but they were wearing these helmets with cameras on the inside that projected their faces onto the walls. And I'd never seen anything like it. And getting to share the stage with such an act was a proud moment in my history. It made me glad I'm doing all of this.
Yeah, absolutely. That sounds fascinating.
So if you get the chance to see them live, that's an absolute treat. I've also been delighted to perform a couple of times with Gary Wilson and the Blind Dates, who are another local San Diego marvel worth staring at in awe.
Yeah.
Well, what does their act kind of entail? What sort of music is it, first of all, I guess?
It's very hard to describe. He's been around a while, so it's worth just kind of browsing his discography from over the years. I don't want to give too much about him away. I hadn't discovered him until I was booked on a bill with him, and then I just went down the rabbit hole of researching him.
So when I saw you, it was Digital Lizards of Doom, Pink Eye, and Bonehenge that evening.
And Pink Eye are good friends of mine as well. I would absolutely recommend checking that show out. They brought me on tour with them to Arizona.
Oh wow!
Last year, which was a marvelous experience to get me out on the road and expose me to some new scoundrels and murderers.
Oh, well, excellent.
Well, it's always nice to have that kind of a hookup when you need it.
That was another situation where I was privately attacked a few times after the show, but while I was on stage, we were generally pretty well received. I enjoyed myself. I like the desert, and I like being on the road and performing in new towns where the people haven't seen me a dozen times and are ready for the next act to go on.
Well, I guess I worry about you a little bit then. Do you ever wear like a Kevlar vest, or is there any kind of protection in your headpiece?
So far, I feel relatively safe in that regard. I've been playing up the attacks, but most of the time the crowd has been very quick to defuse the situation. And if anyone were ever to pull a firearm on me, I imagine there are probably larger issues at play than my act. And may just be in the wrong place in the wrong time should such a scenario arise.
Probably, yeah. That doesn't sound like a great thing. So they usually do checks at the door and stuff like that. I mean, I
Not
was
always.
no, they don't.
Well, I was at a club in Atlanta and they made me get rid of my pencils, which I could see them being a weapon, I guess. It's, you know.
One of the venues we went to on that tour, a friend of mine said that on a previous visit there, he had been dancing with some people in the crowd, and then a gun just fell out of a guy's pocket and landed on the ground, and he went, whoops, and picked it up and put it back, and the dancing continued.
That's
So
crazy.
you never know what you're going to find in these clubs.
Yeah, it's kind of a mixed bag, huh?
Now, tell us a little bit about how you became friends with Pink Eye.
We played a few. I think we played an early open mic together at the Aztec Brewery, and we became personal friends, and eventually started to gig together when the shows were appropriate for it.
Yeah, I really like them a lot. They have such really diverse instrumentation, and it's just great.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite parts about them. It's it's a very exciting live performance, especially with all the instrument switches and the variety of flavors they have going on in the music.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I guess your act kind of reminds me of when Oingo Boingo first started out. They were called the Mystical Knights of the Oingo Boingo.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
And they used to do like a cabaret show when they'd have costumes and plots and all sorts of crazy plot lines and, sometimes puppets. And they wound up not doing it because they basically had to, rent a moving van every time to move all of their equipment with them. But it's recorded forever in a film called The Forbidden Zone.
oh yes, I'm familiar with the Forbidden Zone. Yeah.
Yeah. And when I saw what you were doing, it reminded me a lot of that. And I had wondered,
If that was an influence or if this really just comes out of your mind.
I wouldn't say that they were a conscious influence on what I do. I only really I was introduced to the Forbidden Zone a couple of years ago,
Mhm.
but I do think that tangent DNA thread there is real, because I know the people in Pink Eye are big Oingo Boingo fans and Forbidden Zone fans, and I believe that Blake in that band met Danny Elfman one time, and
Oh,
I think
wow.
Richard Elfman as well. And so that you're not the only one to see a connecting thread there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm hearing an echo here, so hopefully that clears up. Oh, I think
Uh-oh!
yeah. That's always the trouble with doing Skype, right?
But I don't think you'd like my apartment. I haven't had a chance to clean. We've had a couple guests in the apartment, and they've been very polite about it, actually. But, it's basically located in the bowels of hell, so that's not great.
It's nothing new to me, though, so I wouldn't be opposed to such a situation. I've absolutely had worse conditions to operate in before.
Yeah, I bet you've seen it all. Where are some of the worst places that you've had to perform?
A lot of the problem just comes from these diseased microphones at the clubs, because something you should really do if you're going to become a long-term performer or a performer at all is really to invest in your own microphone so that you're not pressing your lips up against these disease-ridden germ factories on the microphones, and you acquire these illnesses that would otherwise be preventable.
Oh, geez. Yeah, I never thought about that, but that's disgusting. I mean, I guess it's kind of like maybe a step up from a stripper pole.
I would argue that it's a step down from a stripper pole. If you look at some of these ghastly musicians who take to the stage and spend the whole evening breathing onto these devices.
Yeah, geez, that's awful. So you bring your own microphone then?
I do not. I still have not invested. I've been wanting to make this investment for a long time, but
so I guess
it doesn't mean I'm not aware of it every time I grab a microphone.
Right. So I guess the next question to ask you would be, what interesting diseases have you had lately?
Oh, it's not. Thankfully, I haven't been too riddled with anything too awful. It's just usually the sore throats and the fevers and your standard cold and flu that come from. You get it more often than you otherwise would as a standard not licking the microphone citizen.
Yeah.
Well, just maybe like a wet nap or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, that's awful. I'm sorry to hear that.
Now, microphones aside, tell me, who is Waldo?
Well, I'm a professional dancing puppet man, as we've mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
I've been performing around the greater San Diego area for about closing in on 3 to 4 years now. I guess we're closer to the 3 year territory.
Yeah.
And I'm always looking for a new show. I like to perform with bands. That's my favorite thing to do. I can perform for anywhere from about 20 to 40 minutes, depending on what you ask of me. Just if you need me to host an event or something, I can do stuff like that. But if you're putting me on a show with your bands, I just treat me like any other single individual with an acoustic guitar or any other performance slot, and that will eliminate a lot of clarity issues with my audiences I've had in the past that typically end in disaster.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we don't want that. So music's very much your passion then.
No, not so much. I just enjoy performing with musicians, and I like those are always my favorite shows to be a part of.
Fascinating. Now, if you had to give me a really quick pitch for your show, what would you give me? Go.
It's a top hit musical dancing entertainment extravaganza, the likes of which you have never seen before.
And would you like to leave our audience with any advice or words of wisdom that you've gathered on your journeys?
Give me just a second.
Okay.
Are you Googling?
No. Hands off.
Okay.
Hands off.
It's
Maybe
all,
I should Google something.
yeah, it's all good if you do. So
What was the question again? I've already forgotten what I'm supposed to be thinking about.
no, that's okay. Oh, geez.
What's the question?
The any advice or words of wisdom that you have?
Oh,
Yeah.
yes. Purchase your own microphone. Rid yourself of disease and filth that your fellow performers will bring to the stage. Because while there are a lot of charming people you meet in show business, there are a lot of vile criminals as well. So keep your eyes peeled, but trust everyone until they give you a reason not to.
Very nice. Powerful words. Thank you so much, Waldo. And thank you for
And
joining.
thank you too.
Yes.
It's been nice.
All right. Thank you for joining us today. And take care. Is there anywhere that you're going to be performing soon?
Oh, you better believe there is. This April 27th, the Just Trying to Make Friends event. See Waldo Oswaldo live on stage. Don't be a puppy murderer. Make sure you attend this show. Check out Waldo_Oswaldo on Instagram for more information.
Okay, perfect. So they should check out your Instagram. All right, great. Thank you so much, Waldo. All right, everybody. Bye.
Hey everybody, it's me, Nap, and I just wanted to let you know that if you're only listening to the You Mind, you're only getting half the story. Hear what happens when the mics go off by listening to our sister program,
Creeping Wave Radio. It's a play within a play. Links to both podcasts are available in the area below. Do we need to do that again? So,
Unless you want them pointing at your crotch.